Hey everybody, Comic Crack. So this next video is going to be edited up with various reviews. This should tie up all my CTR for August, all my comics to read for August. I'm just kind of recording little reviews as I finish each mini-series or each couple of issues or whatever it is that I have left, the book and stuff like that. So I'm just going to jump right into it with no more explanation. We're going to start off with SCI Spy, the 6-issue miniseries from 2002 Vertigo Comics. If you remember, in the last video I talked a little bit about the first one, about the impression that it made on me, which was really strong. And I still stand behind that. First issue was fantastic. I loved the art in this issue. I loved the story so far. I liked that there was a couple of questions that I had as far as where it was going to go. That said, I read number 2 and all those kind of curiosities were completely destroyed. Issue 2 was really weak. It kind of sped up, the whole pace of it ramped up, and they hit a lot of notes in kind of this genre, sci-fi slash PI slash James Bondish type of avenue that just didn't work for me. I thought it was a little boring. I thought it was a little like something I've seen 10 million times. It seemed really shallow as far as that went, but it was only a 6-issue miniseries, so I continued. Went on to issue 3 and it started coming back. Issue 3 and 4 were pretty strong again. Like, they worked for me as far as one thing that I find I do like, and you probably heard me say this before, I have no problem with genre stories. I love genre stories. I think that if you understand the genre really well, you can really play with people's expectations. Unfortunately, so that's what I thought was going to happen with number 2, and to some degree it sort of did. Issue number 2 kind of represented to me their kind of ignorance, I guess, the two main characters' ignorance about what was going on around them, and too busy thinking about themselves and like this loner, and I'm this type of person and that type of person, and hey, we're just going to do this to complete this mission. And so it worked in that regard because they seemed really shallow in issue number 2. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough that happened in the next 4 issues to justify that sort of beginning. It didn't really go anywhere that made the trip worthwhile. The basic story is humanity has been driven off of Earth 1,000 years before. They've terraformed these other planets. There's groups of people that are in the inner circle of planets, and there's groups of people in the outer circle of planets. The inner circle are kind of like the elite class. The outer circles are kind of like the laborers and things like that. So that idea of class war comes in, which is interesting to me. I find that stuff kind of interesting. The main characters have a kind of supercomputer that they call Mother Bank, or Mother, for she always wants him specifically, the main character, to call her mother, and he never does. Well, I guess he does right at the end, but that's kind of unimportant note. It doesn't really tie into anything else. They finally come to realize that their world isn't what it seemed to have been. Their history isn't what they've been told. So there's kind of an awakening as far as, let's see exactly what went on. They find out exactly what went on, and an alien species was going to wipe them out. Mother decided which humans were going to come with them to this new planet, this new solar system, and they did this trip, leaving a whole bunch of people behind to be sacrificed. They had some people who were like slaves and laborers on the ship too. When they got to their kind of new home, and once they'd been established, they kind of, under the guise of setting them free, gave them the outlying planets, which aren't as hospitable, which there's not as many, they basically put them on reserves, so all those kind of ideas worked for me, especially, well, maybe not especially. In Winnipeg, there's always been an issue of natives and reserves, and a topic that's coming up a lot right now is residential schools, and that's a big thing if you know anything about Canadian politics. That's a huge hot button topic. So it would have been nice to have explored that world a little more. But it just didn't pan out like that. You know, in the end, sure, he was kind of fighting against the government or the system or whatever the hell, the mother, you know, the mother bank, but not with any sort of meaning, you know. It was just kind of, he was, at the end of the day, he was still the same character. There was really no kind of overreaching arc to his character that really made the whole read worthwhile. There were some cool moments here and there, and some of Gulacy's artwork is mind-blowing. But overall, I thought the writing was poor. I didn't like it. So remember in that video when I said go out and get it? Scratch that. Don't go out and get it. I mean, if you really, really like Doug Moench and Paul Gulacy and Jimmy Palmiotti, and you really want to support some older Vertigo or whatever, then obviously go check it out. But if you're new to Vertigo and you're new to these people, I would say you could pass by this series easily and not really miss anything. So what would I give it, since we're all of a sudden I've decided I'm going to be grading things in these videos? A really kind of weak 3 out of 5, like 2.5 to 3 out of 5. It had its moments, but overall I wouldn't recommend it, and it's actually going on a pile of comics to trade in. I'm pretty sure the kind of stack of stuff comes in, I either file it away or it goes on to the get it the hell out of here pile. This is going on that pile. So SCI Spy, there you go, on to the next one. Hey everybody, here we go. Now the Manhattan Projects. I'm breaking this one up into 2 parts. We have number 9, number 10, number 11 that I've read already, and number 12 and 13 that I still have to read. I'm breaking it up into 2 parts because it really, it's at a point where I find I'm a little lost with the book. Not so much so that I'm not interested in reading it. I'm completely interested in reading it. I still want to read it. It's a lot to absorb, especially when you're dealing with being behind 5 issues. It's a lot of information to absorb. This is one of those that really works well on a single issue basis because how much there is. It is nice also to get a big dose of it, but I'm really feeling that I'm a bit lost. I really feel like I don't kind of know where I am as far as where the story's going to take us. The real life counterparts of these people I'm not as familiar with, so I feel that there's some subtext that's lost on me. I realize that it's a completely fictionalized version of these real life people. I completely understand he's created this alternate world where he's just going apeshit crazy. And I respect that. I think that's fantastic. I do feel lost though. I feel like it's one of those stories where I need it to be an end in sight. I know that it's supposed to be a continuing series. That's not a maxi series. Nothing I've heard anyway has said that. It's all been said that it's an ongoing. I hope that it isn't. I hope that it ends at 20 or 24 or 26 or 18 or whatever number it is. I kind of hope that there's something that's going to tie it all up, because I feel like I'm kind of lost in this world of I need to have something that I can grab onto. I need to have some sort of story that I can find where it's going and see what the hell is going on. And it feels almost like a Watchmen type of book where you're kind of along on this path, and then as you get closer to the end, and especially as you hit the end, you realize, holy shit, that was quite a comment on this, or that was quite a story doing this, and you want to go back and read them again. I know that it's a series that I'm going to have to go back and read, but I'm hoping that after this one, I'm hoping that I stopped here because it feels like 12 and 13 we're going to get some sort of loose ends tying up, and there's going to be a kind of focus again, because right now in these 3 issues, granted, it's probably partially due to the length of time that I've been away from the book, but it also feels like we're kind of swimming in a world of just kind of, not filler, but like there's story developing in things, and we're getting to know a little bit more of the characters, and a couple of characters have come to the foreground, especially at the end of the last issue, that I'm realizing are going to be, I'm hoping are going to be very cool, because the interaction that they have with each other suggests more, which is great, and I love that kind of thing. But it feels like 12 and 13 are really going to get somewhere for us. So I just wanted to show you this too while I was looking. As you all know, I'm a sucker for comic stuff. Let's hope that that's working right there. I love the format of comic books, as we all do, which is why I read it. This page here, mimicking this page there as far as layout goes. Hopefully that's coming. Here, let me try this way. I need to see the lens, I guess. That one looks like it is that one's the past, sorry. And I love the ability to mimic the layout to give you a taste of where they're at now. Even though they're doing a lot of the same things, you get a sense of they've been friends for a long time, and same with this page in the past. Jumping to this page in the future, even now they're in outer space. It's great. And all these little quotes and stuff I find are also throwing me, because it is like that it's taken from some journal that I just don't know about. It doesn't always, I mean, I'm just flat out, I'm just confused. I enjoy the story. I enjoy the art is amazing. Patera's art is amazing, and I understand that Hickman and Patera have worked together before. I would love to see some more of their work. The fill-in artist for number 10 was a guy named Brown, and he really worked for me as well. And it helped that it was the same colorist doing the work. Loved it. I feel lost. That's all there is to it. So let's look at another review. We'll come back. I'm going to go and read through numbers 12 and 13, and I'll be back with a kind of wrapping up of thoughts of what I think about those two. So this next review is for the 2 issues of Dalgota that I had picked up. And I'll tell you, the first thing I'll tell you is I'm definitely going to be going back to find some more of these. I really enjoyed these first 2 issues. Jan Sternod, I think is how it says you pronounce his name in the... Jan Sternod. Anyway, let's go with that. Jan Sternod, who I've known from some books he's done with Corbin on the Fantagor, and also even more recently he wrote some stuff with Richard Corbin. Has a pretty good handle on it's really good 2 issues. The first issue I think is paced really nicely, as far as you get a little taste of something. You think it's gonna, you know, there was a couple of times, it didn't happen every single page, but there was definitely a couple of times where I thought the story would go one direction, and then you get a little nugget from some other character that you didn't really expect. That was very cool. Basically a race of kind of dog people. It's funny, I'm sure it's supposed to be pronounced Canida, but reading it a couple of times, I had a few times in my head where I read it as Canida, because it's spelt C-A-N-I-D-A, and then C-A-N-I-D-A-N-S, Canidans. I'm assuming it's Canidans, but it was so close to kind of Canada and Canadians that I kept misreading it, which was a little frustrating. The color is great. Actually, I'll pull that back out. The artwork is pretty fantastic. I dig it for the most part. As usual with me, you hear me say it a million times, I really like the color palette. I thought that worked really well. Hopefully you're getting a good look at that there. So a race of dog people coming down to Earth. You get, in this first issue, you get a taste of what happened the first time they came to Earth, which wasn't very good, which kind of explains our main character Dalgota's hesitation in coming to Earth this time and dealing with things the way that he's dealing with. Then you meet another character from the Navy who goes in to kind of sit with Dalgota while he's waiting for a lawyer and a representative from the government who they've been communicating with already. His race has been communicating with already to come and see them. They've developed some sort of new time travel, space travel rather, that hasn't been shared with the rest of Earth, even though the Kanaidans have been sharing all this information with kind of more political figures on Earth. Nobody else has been privy to that information. The military, the Navy guy, turns out he's got a bit of backstory and a little bit of history with Kanaidans. His wife was having an affair with one of them. That tore up his marriage. He was out of the Navy for a little while. And then in number 2, we get to see one of his friends. We get to meet one of the Navy guy's friends. I'm blanking on his name right now. And then you get another little thread that not only has he had this, that kind of makes you question his... You question whether he's actually wants to be friends with this guy, or if he actually likes him, or maybe he's going to try to kill him or something. It turns out that he's not really going to do those things. He kind of actually likes him, but then all of a sudden he has, you get another nugget of another master plan that he has, which is what's great about this book, to be honest, is the parsing of like this information. So as you're reading, you're getting little nuggets here and there that are kind of taking you down this path. And I mean, the first 2, there's enough nuggets there that I'm really interested to see where it's going to go. It's not deathly serious. There's definitely a couple of moments of humor. So it's not a straight up kind of really serious, big, heavy message kind of sci-fi. I'm sure that there will be some of that in there, but it's also a little lighthearted as well. The only thing that I would say that I don't particularly like, the first issue, this premiere issue, is kind of like double-sized, and I really, really like that format. I liked getting that much story in it, because not only is the second issue really short, the story is really short, there's also, beginning in this second issue, is a 5-part series by Jan Sternad and Kevin Nolan called Grimwood's Daughter. And it's a 5-part series, and it's like elves and things, and I read the first part, most of it, and I just didn't like it. I would much rather have had that space for more Dalgota story, because the second one really moved along a little quicker. You're still getting some information, and it still kept my interest, but overall, I wish they just had more space just to pace the story a little slower. So that said, again, since all of a sudden I'm numbering things, I'd say kind of 4 out of 5 for me. You know, there's potential. I mean, it hasn't blown me away, but it's really, really piqued my interest. So I'll be heading back to Red River Bookshop this weekend to try to pick up. I do have a couple of things I'm probably going to trade in. Sci-Spy, for example, SCI Spy, maybe I'll trade that in and pick up the next however many they have. I think they had to, I can't remember what I said in the video, they had at least the first 5 though, so I'll try to pick up the rest of those. So there you go, Dalgota. I'd say check it out. Yeah, so here we go with some more reviews. Let's see what comes up next. This is Manhattan Project number 12. So just when I think I may have a thread on something as far as these 2 characters, what happens? Page 1, we get a little bit of a playback of where we left off, and then surprise, surprise, motherfucker's an alien. Bursts out of his skin, tears the guy apart, throws him into outer space, leaving him for dead. And then the rest of the story kind of goes back, and we follow him throughout his existence, how he came to Earth, how he came to be, his moving up in the scientific world. Some great lines in this. Drone, lines of the drone status or drone objective, mission objective or drone objective, destroy science. I thought that was pretty fucking hilarious. And then at the end, when they finally come to catch him, what does Einstein say? They don't know what to do with them, so we considered fitting you to the Oppenheimer, finding out the knowledge hidden in your head, but then we thought about it, and who wants to keep a traitor around? So I thought that was great. Any comic book where you can feed one of the characters to another is a pretty damn good book in my mind. So I'm back to, I still may be confused, I still maybe want a thread of something, and I still sometimes think that I have it figured out, and then an issue surprises me leading off a completely different path. It's goddamn fun when that happens though, so I really like this issue. It bodes well for number 13, which I'm going to read next. Palookaville by Seth from John and Quarterly, I believe 1991. We'll have a quick look here. Yeah, this is September 1991. The issues that I found, which I was really surprised at, I don't know, there was a haul video at one point when I did find these. They're harder to find. I've never seen them myself. Maybe in places like Toronto and stuff it might be a little easier, but here it's not something I've ever hunted down or anything, but when they did jump up, I grabbed what I could. So I got number 2, number 3, number 6, number 7, and number 9, and these were also part of my comics to read for the month. So I did, well, I read through the first 2, numbers 2 and 3. What it is there's a few short stories, it looks like. By the looks of it, issue number 1 was a standalone story, because numbers 2 and 3 are one continuing story, and it's called Beaches. It's about a character named Greg who works at a restaurant called The Lighthouse. Eventually, let me just pause right there. Beautiful panel there, really like that one. Eventually he's going to be moving to Toronto, so this is kind of his last summer in this town, working at this restaurant, and the people that he knows there, and the kind of interpersonal relationships. And then he ends up having an affair with the owner's wife, whose nickname is Beaches. He's a virgin, so he loses his virginity to her, falls kind of madly in love with her, and the rest of the story then in issue number 3 is kind of what that does to him, as far as how that makes him feel, and you know, this sort of thing. So really nice little story. As far as I know, this isn't autobiographical. Usually when Seth does his autobiographical stuff, which he doesn't always do, he's one of the characters in it. I don't know, I enjoy it's like it's a different kind of read, you know what I mean? Obviously it's more dramatic, it's more about the people, it's more about his illustrations, type of art and things. It's just a nice little story. So there's a look at some of the pages there, and then we'll look at these last ones. So overall, these 2 parts, I liked them quite a bit. Probably like 4 out of 5-ish kind of thing. It's really nice also to, because I've been a fan of Seth for so long, I've only got some of his books. I don't really have, these are the only comics that I have. Letters page on the inside back cover there. These are the only comics that I actually have of his. So it's really nice to have something like this in my hand. So that was that one. And then with issue number 6 here, we get into part 3 of It's a Good Life If You Don't Weaken, with an amazing kind of opening panel there. So what did I say? Issue number 6, 5, 4. So number 4 is part 1, and I believe the last part is in number 9 is the last part. So like a little 6-part story, and it's basically about Seth himself searching out. He's a big collector and fan of old illustrators. So in this one, he's setting out to hunt down the history of one of his favorite artists called named Kalo. And on the front cover is a Kalo cartoon that Seth has recolored for this comic. And you can see, like with the feet, you can see some of the line work. It's really reminiscent of his style. He's kind of really steeped in the past as far as things that he's interested in, music that he listens to, artists that he likes, that sort of thing, on YouTube. I'll see if I remember. I'll try to put a link to a brief little documentary where there's a chat with him in his home. That's pretty damn good. Love his buildings and stuff. There was a couple of pages here. So this one I didn't really read thoroughly through these because it's kind of chopped up in parts. I want to wait until I get the other parts of the story before I read the whole thing. Just read it as one piece. Now I think that this has been collected in a book too. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I'm pretty sure it's been all collected. It's a nice page there too. There was one, maybe it wasn't. Oh, here we go. So Joe Matt, Chester Brown, and Seth are all pretty close friends, and Joe Matt, especially in his comics, has the other two appear in his comics quite often, where he's having conversations with them. Most of the time though, it's Joe talking to Seth, and Chester just sits kind of quietly in the side. But in this one, it's nice to see Seth's version of that's Chester Brown right there. So a conversation that he was having. All three of them kind of collected old comic strips and cartoon strips. I think Seth and Joe more than Chester. So he's kind of having a conversation with him about how he wants to try to hunt him down, and he's found out that Kalo is dead, but he still wants to go to his house where he died and try to find out some more history. Really like this page too. His cityscapes are always very impressive to me as well. So there's a look at that page, especially that last one there. And yeah, so it goes. Overall, like I said, a good kind of 4 overall. It's really nice to see it laid out like this in a little bit of a different format than I'm used to seeing his stuff. So definitely going to be on the hunt for the rest of these. So this is for Manhattan Projects number 13, and again another kind of surprise. Kind of jump into the future a little bit more. It's 1 year later, and the three main projects that they talked about are underway. The fourth one is also underway, but of course the fourth one is only Oppenheimer's project. So we find out that they're kind of getting into identifying other alien species. They've sent the dog to outer space for 5 years, 35 years in dog years, which was a pretty good little passage, just the connection there. Project Vulcan is underway with some amazing art in this one here. Love those pages. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? It's and talk about, you know, pushing some buttons. President Kennedy doing lines before he has a meeting. It's almost sacrilegious, isn't it? But it's pretty great. It's pretty funny shit. And then the whole Oppenheimer's. He says that he's trying to figure out what he's going to do here. Well, I have to make sure I don't. We certainly don't want our work interrupted, do we? Besides, lead someone far enough down an unknown road and soon they're completely lost without you. Kind of how I feel about this book. I just have to keep the others from interfering for a short while. Any suggestions? Kill them, kill them, kill them, eat them. Okay. And then the last little panel. We knew the endless Oppenheimers. We knew the endless Oppenheimer, and it terrified us. Imagine our horror when we discovered he was infinite. So I imagine that's kind of a prelude of things to come, talking about more Oppenheimers. So I've gone from kind of like complete confusion to surprise with number 12. To kind of accepting it again in number 13. It's a pretty incredible book. I love the design. I know Hickman is responsible for the design in the book as far as the covers and things go. I really enjoy that. It's a book. Like I said, I'm definitely going to stick with it. I still think that. I'm still of the belief that it should have an ending. I don't hope it, you know, I can't imagine this going for like 100 issues. I imagine that he's got some sort of ending mapped out. Whether he's going to get to it or not is anybody's guess. But I'm hoping that he does. I'm hoping that we get to kind of a sense of the overall story. I'm hoping that there's kind of a conclusion that he wants to lead us to. So that's it for the Manhattan Project's review. I'm going to give this overall series 4.5 out of 5. I like it a hell of a lot. It's a really, really great ride. I'm going to be looking forward to picking this up now, and I'm going to try to keep up with it this time. It was interesting reading them all in a chunk. It works. It just took a little bit to get back into it, I think, was the problem. If I had started with the trades, reading all the trades, I think the flow would have been a little better. But seeing as I missed, whatever this was, 3 months or 5 months or however many months I've missed, I think just kind of the initial getting back into this world and just took me a little bit, because it's just really, really unique. So it's not the easiest to kind of jump in and out of. You got to kind of keep up with it month to month. So there we go, Manhattan Projects. The next one to talk about is Frankencastle. So I'm a fan, as you all know, of the Captain America, Rick Remender's Captain America. I've been a fan of Rick Remender for quite a long time. I first got introduced to him through Fear Agent. Love that series. If you haven't picked that up, or if you don't know that series, it's highly, highly recommended. Beginning, middle, fantastic ending, really good world, some great kind of pulp sci-fi writing with some kind of serious tone to it as well. So when I was there was a while ago there, I was looking at some YouTube videos and interviews with Remender, just to kind of, I was just curious about himself and how he got him, because I was kind of surprised. I remember when I first saw people's names like Remender and Fraction in like mainstream Marvel books, kind of took me by surprise, because I was a fan of theirs before all that kind of stuff, and it just surprised me that those types of writers would actually be working for Marvel. So just kind of out of curiosity, wanting to know his history and things like that, I watched a couple of videos, and in one of the videos he talks a little bit about this Frankencastle, his run on Punisher. And from his description, sounded fantastic. I mean, the thing that I really like about Captain America, and I know that this is a big thing with people, is I love the direction he's taken. I have no previous conceptions of Captain America. Well, I guess my own preconceived notions of the character himself, but I've never been a fan of the books, so I don't know his history, and I don't know that sort of thing, and I don't have an attachment to the character. It's the same with Frank Castle, with the Punisher. I've never, years and years ago, probably like 15 years ago, I tried to get into some Punisher War Journal and stuff like that, and it just wasn't for me, and to this day I don't necessarily think it's for me. I don't know, maybe there's some good stories out there besides this one, but I think that's what draws me to something like this. It's such a unique take on it, like the Legion of Monsters, putting him back together, creating this Frankenstein monster out of Frank Castle, and then how it goes from there. So I did a little research on this. So basically what happened was, I read this first issue, and I said to myself, why the hell am I reading number 17? Why don't I just buy the whole series? Because as soon as I started reading it, it was comfortable reading for me. It seemed really cool. I liked the art. Obviously I was right close to the end. What I found out later was close to the end of his arc, because his arc ended on number 21, which is this one here, with the guy whose name I can't remember right now. I know the artist a little bit. I was drawn to this cover. I love the cover. And Dan Brereton, B-R-E-R-E-T-O-N. And to my surprise, he also does the entire interiors of this one, which I just ended up looking through after I read number 17. I just looked through this book. Love this guy's art. So I've already highlighted or bookmarked his Wikipedia entry, because I'd love to find some more books that he's done the art for. It is reminiscent. I remember I had a brief look through it, and there was a couple of titles that rang a bell for me. So anyway, needless to say, I went out and I bought some more. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to try to find the whole series, then I'm just going to read the whole damn series, instead of coming in right at the end and maybe spoiling or maybe not spoiling anything for myself. So I managed to find the number 2 second print variant, number 7, number 8, number 10, number 15, number 16, and I see the name Tony Moore on a couple of these too, number 20. So I got those chunk of books. There's a couple of places that I went to first are ones that always have sales on. One of them has 25% sale on, the other one had a 30% off sale, so I got a pretty good discount. Found the annual, and then when I was reading the Wikipedia entry, it mentioned Matt Fraction's, that Rick Remender's run kind of feeds right directly off of Matt Fraction's run, and I believe that's these ones. So it's the Civil War Punisher War Journal, Civil War number 1 and number 2. So maybe I'll find those, do a little bit more research, because I'd love to. I mean, if I'm going to go into Punisher, I may as well read a couple authors that I really, really like. So I'll probably end up finding all of Fraction's run and then get all of Remender's run and just kind of save them all as a big chunk. So not necessarily a review. I guess it's a review enough, because reading the one issue interested me enough to go and hunt out the rest. So I mean, you know, I won't give this one a number other than I think it's going to be pretty damn cool. And just on the note of picking things up, I also picked up some more Dalgota. So I got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that's cool, and that's all that he had. Actually, he only had the first 8, which is good. At least I got a straight run of them. And these were like $2 and $3 a piece plus the discount, so pretty good deal. So so far this comics to read for August is going really well. Found a couple of new books that I'm really liking, and it feels good to actually read through some of the stack too, not only finding some things that I like, but actually cutting down that stack as they pile up, and then automatically replacing that stack with more stuff to read, which will become September's comics to read. We'll see how that goes. So I'm gonna call this one the last video in my whole editing there. So thanks very much for watching. I hope that I turned you on to a couple of books that maybe you didn't know about. And by all means, like Spyro was saying as well, Spiro.Geek was saying the same thing about if you have any comics that you're going to read. I don't know, I think it's kind of a cool idea, you know, and as much as we're already all sort of a book club anyway, this kind of really brings it to kind of book club status, you know. Like, I really like the idea of at the beginning of a month listing the books that you want to get through, and your focus is purely on them. It's been really fun doing this. So thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks.